boy, we're making Christmas pinwheel cookies for the 7th day of our 12 Days of Christmas Cookies marathon. This cookie may look complicated, but once you've seen the process, you'll be running to your kitchen to start making your very own. To get started, we need 1 cup of softened butter and 1 cup of sugar. We're gonna mix this up until it's nice and creamy. I will post an ingredients list towards the end of this video. It can also be found down below in the description box along with the directions. This looks good. Next goes in 1 egg and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. The recipe actually calls for 3/4 of a teaspoon of almond extract. If you want to stay true to the recipe, then use that. I personally feel like this isn't quite the right cookie for almond extract, but that's just my opinion. And you can't really go wrong with classic vanilla. Scrape the bowl if needed. I'm just gonna give it 1 final mix. Now for our dry ingredients. We need 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Mix, mix, mix. I love this mixing bowl. It comes in a set of 10 and they're all nesting. If you watch my channel frequently, then you've probably seen these a lot. I like them so much I have 2 sets. If you do a lot of baking, it's good to have a lot of bowls at the ready. Okay, we're ready to prepare the dough for coloring. First thing we're gonna do is divide our dough in half like so. Then we're gonna shape our dough on top of some plastic wrap. We're going for a rectangular shape here. Try to flatten it a bit so it's easier to work with later. Yes, we need to chill this dough in the fridge for 30 minutes, but set that off to the side for now. We still need to deal with the other half of the dough. This is the brand I'm using. It's Hobby Lobby's brand of gel food coloring. Since this is cookie dough and not frosting, we're gonna add in 5 or 6 drops. You might want to add more if you want it redder. Definitely not using my pink spatula for this. A simple metal spoon will do the trick. I can't use my mixer. I've already licked my beaters. Oh my, look at that bright red. Okay, same thing as before. Try and shape your dough ball exactly like the other one. We are gonna roll both colors out later, and we want to give them both a good start by keeping them both similar in shape. Same thing, wrap it up and place it alongside the other half. Into the fridge for 30 minutes. Okay, they've both firmed up in those 30 minutes. Grab a large piece of parchment paper, place your dough on top, and cover it with another piece of parchment paper. That took me a while to get. There's a lot of P's in that sentence. It took me a couple tries to get it. Grab your rolling pin and gently roll out your dough. This looks pretty good. Okay, slide your dough onto a baking sheet and set it off to the side. We're gonna repeat the same process for the red dough. That looks close enough to the other. Okay, for the next step, we're gonna remove the top piece of parchment from both and quickly but carefully flip one on top of the other like this. If you think your dough is too soft to flip and you're worried it might detach from the parchment paper, toss it back in the fridge for 10 minutes to reform up a bit. Once you have both pieces right where you want them, grab your rolling pin and lightly press both together. This sort of helps seal them together. Now we could attempt to roll up the dough right now, but by this time, it's more than likely too soft for rolling. You guessed it, we're gonna place it back in the fridge to firm up. This should take only 15 minutes. And here it is 15 minutes later and ready to roll. Remove the top piece of parchment paper and pick the longest side. What I'm doing here is running my fingers along the edges of the dough to help soften it up for rolling. But we just tossed it in the fridge to firm up. What's going on here? Well, I'll tell you. If we tried to roll it right out of the fridge, it would most likely crack and we don't want that. This is just to get it started. Once we get it going, we won't have to do this all the way to the other side. Don't worry. Once you think you're ready, gently start rolling your dough all the way to the other side. This might take some time, so just be patient. Once you have your dough rolled all the way to the end, we're gonna trim off this little bit here. You don't have to if you don't want to. I mean, we could have trimmed up the sides too, but again, that's your call. All right, by now, this is too soft to slice. After all this work, of course we want nice clean slices. We're gonna toss this back in the fridge for 1 full hour to firm up. Oh my goodness, I baked the one recipe with so much fridge time. Okay, we're ready to slice. This dough is nice and firm and ready for slicing. Grab a knife and start slicing. You want to cut each to about 1/2 inch or close to it. Since we didn't clean up the edges before rolling, the first couple slices are going to have a hole in the middle. That's normal. Consider those your sample cookies. And once you get past that part, here's what the rest of the dough should look like. For the sprinkles, if you're going with chunky sprinkles like these, it's going to be hard to cover the edges of your cookie. If you're going to use sprinkles, it's best to go with the nonpareils, the very tiny sprinkles. Of course, sprinkles don't make or break this cookie. I prefer them without, but they're very festive with sprinkles. Into the oven at 350 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes depending on your oven. And here they are out of the oven. Here's my taste tester cookie. And here's one baked with the chunky sprinkles. It's okay. And here they are looking fabulous, a very festive little cookie. I've always been kind of leery of these types of cookies. I've assumed they're very crunchy and dry, but not this recipe. Here you're getting a buttery, soft, almost sugar-like cookie. I will say this, despite all the fridge chilling that goes on with this cookie, it was worth it. Here's that ingredients list. 1 1/4 cup of Thanks for watching today's 7th cookie in our 12 Days of Christmas Cookies marathon. Don't forget to check back in tomorrow. Only 5 more cookies left. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out, and I'll see you all tomorrow.